Meeting going. If I could call the meeting of Jobs and Business Development Committee to order. Item number 1. Or do we have some consent items? 3, 4, and 5. These are bid items, business improvement districts. So without objection, I'm joined by Mr. Krikorian. Items 3, 4, and 5 are approved. Okay, back to item number 1.
Item number 1 is a Chief Legislative Analyst, Business Tax Advisory Committee and City Attorney reports and ordinance relative to business tax administrative appeals process, decisions, and reclassifications.
Good afternoon, Deputy City Attorney Dan Whitley.
Please.
We're here on an amendment or an addition of Section 2116I to the LA Municipal Code. This would be addressing the Board of Review to address taxpayers who have a Board of Review determination and then have a later Board of Review determination that would be reversing the earlier determination to increase the taxpayers' taxes. This had been here earlier, and there was disagreement with the Business Tax Advisory Committee dealing with subsections 2A and 2B. The City Attorney, the Office of Finance, and the Business Tax Advisory Committee have since met and discussed these issues. And we have been working on an amendment to the current ordinance that's before this committee, where we'll be reworking subsection 2A to change it. It currently would apply this subsection only to taxpayers that have had a single Board of Review determination. It will now apply to taxpayers that have had any number of Board of Review determinations. Our office is concerned to make sure that the language is clear enough to make sure that that will flow through the entire ordinance. And that, excuse me, I'm going through a cold, so I hope I don't lose you. But so we're working on that language. We're meeting, I believe, on Monday to make sure that we're in agreement on what the language will be. There's no longer any disagreement about subsection 2B. The issue had been that this ordinance would only apply to taxpayers that have determinations with respect to their business tax classification, not with respect to other issues. And now I think we're all in agreement that that's how this should go forward. It will only apply to that issue.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Did the Business Tax Advisory Committee want to come forward? You don't have to fill out one of these cards. This is your motion, so you can just come to the table immediately when these items come up, because there's going to be a lot more, hopefully.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Alarcon, Councilmember Krikorian. We are in agreement, as stated by the City Attorney's Office, with the amendment to this proposed ordinance to eliminate that restriction in 2A that limits it, in fact, to one and only one previous BOR determination. So we are totally in lockstep with the City Attorney. We feel if you remove that paragraph 2A entirely, that'll solve the problem. But if that doesn't turn out to be the case, we're certainly happy to discuss that with the City Attorney in Monday's meeting to see if appropriate language can be divined and we can push this ordinance through without further delay.
Okay. I'm a little concerned because we were under the impression that the action was simply to strike one and only one from the provisions, but you're working on language?
Well, it's also going to have to affect different parts of the ordinance. As I was looking through it, there's references to only a single determination throughout the ordinance.
Okay.
So only to make minor changes throughout. And when I struck that language, myself and my superiors were concerned that it wasn't going to flow through well, and we might have some adverse consequences. And it's something I would like to discuss on Monday to make sure that we're all on the same page.
All right.
As long as that's acceptable to the committee, I'd like to do that and make sure we have the right ordinance.
You're not asking us to slow this down. You just want...
Well, I'm asking to slow it down for 2 weeks to make sure we have the...
You want us to bring it back to committee, or...?
I don't need to bring it back to committee. I think we can have a draft done, you know, and for proposal, the committee can wave it through if you wish to council, but we'll be done in 2 weeks on drafting an ordinance.
Okay.
Ed Cabrera, Office of Finance. I just wanted to concur with the City Attorney's request for additional 2 weeks to work on the language. Office of Finance has been in discussions with City Attorney regarding some of the language in the draft ordinance. So we just want to ensure that the language has been thoroughly vetted before it moves forward. But Office of Finance is in concurrence with the overall intent of the ordinance. We just want to ensure that the language has been thoroughly vetted, and we have been having ongoing discussions with the city attorney, and we will be proceeding with those discussions in the coming days.
Okay, I'm fine with waiving it out of committee, at least the provision regarding Section 1I 2.A. Otherwise, we would approve the ordinance as amended, and if you would just give my staff an opportunity to review the language before we go to council, and I don't anticipate there'll be any problems since you're all on the same page. It's just a question of the language. So with that, then, with Mr. Krikorian's concurrence, item number 1 is approved as recommended by the city attorney.
Yeah, I would like to add one caveat, which is if for some reason we're not on the same page based on whatever language we haven't seen.
Oh, yeah.
If, based on whatever language we haven't seen coming forward from the city attorney's office on Monday, we'd like to have the ability to reach out to this committee to indicate that we have some concerns, that perhaps the language isn't consistent with striking the one and only one.
We're only a phone
compromise.
call away.
I'm sorry?
We're only a phone call away. Just
Great.
Yeah, we all reserve the right to reconsider this should the language not be satisfactory to all parties. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. But let me ask you this. If we do run into some kind of problem on that language, is there any reason why we wouldn't want to move the rest forward?
You mean just address? Well, I think we need to address the ordinance as a whole. It works as what is as a whole. I think.
Okay, then I really want you guys to agree. Okay, I don't want to spend any more time on this. We've spent more time on this than just about everything else we've done in this committee.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2.
Item number 2 is a Community Development Department report relative to the 2009-2010 Workforce Investment Act WorkSource Center and OneSource Operator Annual Performance Evaluation Results, and Workforce Investment Board report relative to the 2009-2010 WIA Carry-In report and request for authority to modify the 2010-2011 annual plan budget and contracting authority.
Manny Chavez with the Community Development Department. To address the first part of this report, it is related to the annual performance evaluation of our WorkSource and OneSource Center contractors. These are our primary providers of workforce development services in the city. Per WIB, City Council and Mayor approved policy, we do evaluate the performance of these agencies on an annual basis. If they are successful in that evaluation, they are certified for the forthcoming program year for continued funding. If they do not, or if they're unsuccessful in the evaluation process, they're placed on corrective action, whereby staff actually follows up on their performance on a rather close basis throughout the program year. The categories that contractors are evaluated on are customer satisfaction. We have Cal State Northridge that actually goes out and conducts satisfaction surveys of the participants that actually avail of the WorkSource centers and OneSource centers for services. We evaluate them on the outcomes, whether individuals were placed, returned to school, or other positive outcomes that we recognize. We also evaluate them on flow, the volume of individuals that actually go through the WorkSource and OneSource centers. This past year, we had some 170,000 individuals walk through the doors of our WorkSource centers. And finally, we evaluate them on their administrative capability, basically how timely they are in responding to requests from the city, their maintenance of participant files, and a number of other factors. This past year, we had 8 WorkSource centers that received 4 stars for superior performance. So the 18 WorkSource centers that we have, 8 of them were recognized with 4 stars. On the OneSource center side, we have 14 contractors. 9 of them were recognized with the 4 stars. The others are not necessarily unsuccessful. They simply did not attain the highest level of performance. We did have 2 contractors, one WorkSource center, the Van Nuys WorkSource Center managed by Arbor, and the Urban League's OneSource Center that were unsuccessful on the evaluation. We are closely monitoring their performance. They have had some administrative changes in terms of staffing that we're closely monitoring. We did just recently conduct a 6-month progress report on their performance, and they seem to be showing improvement as we go forward. The contractors that are awarded the 4 stars are offered an incentive award of a modest $3,000 per center, and that has been actually approved by the Workforce Investment Board.
Okay, this concept of excess ARA rapid response money,
Yes, so that's related to the second part of the report.
right?
Right.
I'm fine on number 1.
Okay.
That's, in fact, it's ironic that on item number 1 we spent too much, and on item number 2 we didn't spend enough.
The ARA dollars, we actually
Right.
overexpended our projected expenditures.
My question isn't how you overspent. My question is how we underspent.
On rapid response
Right.
specifically.
We had, Jaime Pacheco Orozco with the Community Development Department. We had originally allocated, through the rapid response strategy, funding for a number of different activities. One of those activities that we had set aside, nearly $1 million, was for Rapid Response Retention Training Fund, where we wanted to set aside money to provide services to businesses that were potentially looking to lay off staff and do some retraining for those staff. That actually never materialized.
What exactly never materialized?
The actual use of those funds. So
Well, I know the use didn't occur, but why?
the money was set aside as a request through the mayor's office, and part of their attempt was to use this as a economic development activity. There are specific prohibitions on the use of the WIA funds for economic development activity. So we clarified what the monies could be used for.
No, I get all that.
Right.
I'm just asking why it wasn't used.
The money was set aside for an activity that
That obviously didn't occur. Why?
Some of the proposed activities, when they were reviewed by our staff, were determined to be ineligible under WIA. WIA is very prescriptive in terms of what are allowable activities, and some of economic development is prohibited by WIA, and some of the activities that they were proposing were economic development related.
Indeed, the money went to the economic development section, right, of the mayor's office?
Correct.
That's-
But economic development activities specifically are not allowed by the Act. We are allowed to subsidize the employment of individuals that are in need of training for jobs, which we do routinely through our system. We're allowed to provide funding for work experience, for upgrade training of existing staff that want to move on to a better position. We're allowed to support that, but none of what was proposed to us fell within those eligible categories.
Nothing?
Nothing.
So what is happening with that program?
But we're proposing to reallocate those dollars.
No, I understand the money is moving, and because if we don't move it, we'll lose it, right?
Correct.
I get that.
Correct.
That's a no-brainer. But what happened to the programs that were proposed?
Well, the programs would
did-
continue, but they wouldn't continue with these dollars. For example, we can't encourage with WI funds a business to relocate to the city and then to subsidize the hiring of individuals that were formerly employed by that business. That type of activity we cannot support. So that would be an example of encouraging business to come to the city but not using WI.
So the Office of Small Business, are they operating this program or not?
It wasn't a program as defined to us, as simply an allocation to support activities that would encourage business to come to the city, and seeing what WI could do in terms of a wage subsidy for those folks.
Okay. How long did it take us to figure it out that they were ineligible?
6 months. This item was presented to the Workforce Investment Board in December. So
Okay.
from July 1 to December.
Okay. Well, we're reallocating it to, I'm a little confused by all these. Is this the money that's going to these 4 agencies?
Yes, it is. There are 4 different organizations.
Harbor, Build Rehab, Goodwill, and City of Long Beach?
That's part of that amount of money. There are others. The LA Economic Development Corporation is also being funded with that for an additional $200,000. There is $200,000 that is being retained in the mayor's office of small business, but it's not a full 938.
It's not what?
There's $200,000.
You said it's not a full 930?
It's not the full 938,000
Oh, okay.
that was previously allocated, and it's for a different purpose as well.
Okay. So I didn't even realize this, but the City of Long Beach actually operates a WorkSource Center in the City of LA.
They do, and they are required to serve city residents.
That's very strange. Can somebody explain that to me? I mean, we thank the City of Long Beach. Are we providing WorkSource services to Long Beach or something? I don't know. Is this some kind of exchange program? What are we doing
The
here?
delivery system doesn't actually preclude us from serving county residents. We are allowed to serve anyone through our WorkSource centers, although we specifically...
No, I'm just saying it's odd that another jurisdiction would come into the City of LA to expend our money. Is there some reason why?
We did a competitive...
Are they doing? Is it like a WorkSource center that is
So we-
adjacent to?
We did a competitive process for procuring services in the harbor. The City of Long Beach is a local workforce investment area itself, and it operates a series of WorkSource centers within its jurisdiction. Since they do have activity at the port, and that they were procured as part of the competitive process, we did use them to provide those services within the harbor.
But it is based in the City of LA.
It is within the harbor, yes, absolutely. It is in San Pedro.
You sure they're not? This isn't some surreptitious plan to undermine our harbor and benefit their activities?
Not at all,
Not at all. Okay.
not at all.
Maybe they want to annex Los Angeles.
Yeah, that could be. This is the foothold. But all kidding aside, there's tremendous synergy that occurs between the two ports, and we all benefit from both ports being successful. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. Now, what's the final item? The third element of your proposal?
Well, it's actually the part of that same carry-in report.
Oh, I'm
Something
sorry, yeah, I
that's
see.
required
Okay.
by the Workforce Investment Board and Council for us to report back. We did have some $2.2 million in savings that we're recommending sit unobligated through the end of this program year, specifically
Is that
because...
ARA money?
No, it is all formula money that we would have.
Because they're taking that money back, right? So we're spending everything we can get.
We are, correct. But in anticipation of fewer dollars next year, beginning July 1, we were proposing to have $2.2 million sit
And
unobligated.
these monies are not in jeopardy of being cut, and
Not at this point in time. We have not been advised at all. However, of course, with H.R. 1, they're threatening to close down the entire workforce development system. So that's another story entirely.
okay, well, I don't see that happening, but obviously, bits and pieces could fall out. But in President Obama's proposed budget, you didn't see anything that would affect the $2.2 million?
The proposal for next year is for level funding from the administration.
Okay,
So
okay.
this two.
So at least for next year, we're,
Correct, for next year.
okay, assuming that segment of the Obama proposal remains whole.
Correct.
Okay, I'm good. Mr. Krikorian?
I think you covered what I was wondering about.
Okay, great. Then, without objection, the committee approves.
Councilman, I think there was also a CDD request to make these recommendations retroactive to January 1st, 2011. And also to amend recommendation number 6.
Let me read this whole thing here. Okay, so we're approving report recommendations 1 through 5, and with regard to recommendation 6, we amend to authorize CDD to prepare controller instructions and any necessary technical adjustments subject to the approval of the city administrative officer, and authorize the controller to implement the instructions. Apparently, there was some incorrect wording in the report that this will allow them to correct. And number 3, authorize CDD to make contracts retroactive to January 1st, 2011. And we thank the contractors for providing the service even without a contract. Okay. So if that's okay, Mr. Krikorian, he nods yes, then we are in
Council
concurrence.
members, John White, City Clerk, is also the first CDD report regarding the evaluations. The department recommends a note and file action on that report.
Okay, then we will note and file that action. Then that matter is approved as stated. Item number 3, this is the 3, 4, and 5 are approved. Are we done?
We're done.
Wow. See, Mr. Krikorian, you didn't even finish lunch.
Well done, I could have left my lunch upstairs.
Or you could stay here and enjoy
I might.
a robust discussion with Julie Butcher. This meeting is adjourned.
No public comment even? No public comment? Julie, you don't want to say anything?
What's that?
Public comment opportunity.
Did you email it to me?
Check.